Hi, everyone. I'm
Hi,
very,
Lori.
my internet went down and my computer locked.
It was funny when I was leaving the meeting. Sorry, when I was leaving the meeting, I just clicked assign and leave. On my screen flashed up assign a new host, and it clicked down. At first, it said Jay Spalding, and I said, "Oh, I said leave," and then it clicked down one more, and it went to Eric Donch, and I said, "It said assign and leave." So he may have been part of the problem. I don't know.
Sorry, we seem to have this problem. We had Thames Valley.
Access like that dinghy dock and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
all right. We're all back. Is there anything I missed? You want me to continue?
We had a discussion on how many, the percentage of moorings that were being filled off the wait list.
Oh,
And
okay.
And, but I think we're done with that. So,
Okay.
no, that's really good. Great. You've been able to clear so many off the wait list. That's fantastic.
Can I ask a quick general question, just from my own information? How do the deferrals work? If someone's number comes up, right, and they, what allows them to defer? How long can they defer? Do they keep their position in line, if you will, for how long?
So the policy is, my understanding, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, that they get a 1-year deferral. We usually, for a legitimate reason. For instance, a number of folks, because I called a second batch of people late in the season, like in April, and they already had paid elsewhere for their mooring, but they're very interested. So we deferred them for a year. And also last year, we did a bunch of deferrals because of the pandemic. So they remain on the wait list. And if you look at the dashboard of online mooring, there is a wait list hold, which means deferral. And we have 11 people in that category. Some were from Paul's list and the remainder were from mine. And also there's the one problem issue that Eric will speak about. And unless most of them either take a mooring the next year, or they say, I'm not going to be getting a mooring, so just take me off the list. And I explained to them when they choose to do that, that with the new program for the wait list, that they would end up going to the bottom of the wait list and they would have to pay the $50 to refile for a new application next year.
So
Is
actually,
that correct,
the deferral policy is actually called out in the plan.
Oh, okay.
I can't recall exactly where it is, but it does address it.
Okay, good. I'll look that up. So I've got all the specifics in case anyone asks me a specific question. Usually I just defer them to call Eric if they have a problem.
So we don't give up their position as someone else per se. We just hold it for a year, and if they take it, that's fine. If they don't take it, they're off the list, basically.
Correct.
That's right.
When you say their position, you're talking about their position on the wait list, right?
Right, yeah.
We're not holding mooring spots for anybody, because that's had to been explained to a couple of people too, that yeah, okay, well, if you would rather defer a year than just pay us $50 now, and you're not going to get the same sweet mooring location next season because it's going to be assigned to the next person that comes along. So, and then there's also the, so there's there's the straight up, yeah, I don't have a boat yet, I've already signed a contract. There's also the human factors side of it that we still like to apply to the, I just got my knee replaced. So I wasn't even planning on putting the boat in the water this year. Or last year it was, well, we don't know what we're doing with COVID. So that kind of thing. So
Let me ask this question. What if they have a 7-foot draft boat, just to take an extreme example, and their numbers comes up and we don't have a mooring for a 7-foot draft boat. And so they say, well, I can't take a 3-foot draft boat, mooring. So what happens with that?
That's not a deferral on their part. If that were the situation where we just don't have a spot that they're going to fit in, that's
Right.
on us. We'll explain to them, hey, you're up at the top of the list, but unfortunately we don't have a spot for you right now. And you're going to stay at the top of the list until we have a good location for you. And then you're going to get that good location. We haven't come to that point yet.
Right.
The place where we're getting close to that is within the past 2 years, we've had a couple of very large boats apply or, come up on the list and say, okay, well, yeah. Remember when I got on the list with that J24? I now own a 60-foot something. And I go, good. So far we've been able to squeeze everybody in, but that kind of thing is gonna, be limiting us very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a couple people that I've spoken to that's happened to in the last few days. And I've explained to them that, our options are going to get slim because the mooring field is getting full because of all the moorings that we have assigned in the last few years. And they're understandable with that. I haven't had an issue from anyone except our one problem child that Eric will explain about.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, I'll continue. Set up an automatic reminder for non-payments. I mentioned that'll go out on June 1st, and that'll go out every year. The Elhu Island group, I had to do the same thing with them, like the special purpose. I had to complete an application for each one, go in, and Eric had me, we came up with a mooring numbering system for Elihu grouping, for Wickety-Quack Cove, for Osbrook Point, and for the east side. So I had to go in and make mooring numbers for each of those groups, put them into the system, and then go back in and find each one of those people and assign them to this new mooring number. And Eric and I discussed this. So the harbor proper goes with a number first and then the letter. And then the outside of the harbor proper, we're using, I'll use like Wickety-Quack Cove is WC-12345, whatever. And I put a bunch of extra moorings into online system for these categories in anticipation of the future so that we don't have to go through this whole process. Eric can look at the system and say, yep, we've got 5 in Wickety-Quack Cove. I can give you this one. Next is, let's see. I researched in the GIS system with the town to find all the property owners in Osbrook Point, because we found through Greenhaven Marine discussions Eric and I have had with them, they have placed moorings in Osbrook Point area, and we didn't have names for these folks. So we're working through that, and Eric gave me assignments for these people. So we've got them in the system and we can bill them now. Most of them were in, but hadn't been assigned to Osbrook Point, and a couple of them haven't. They were the ones that Eric referred to that were kind of we found in the system that hadn't paid. So those are fixed. And there were a number on Osbrook Point. Eric went through the group, and some were not applicable to have moorings in that area, etc. Any questions on those? Nope. Okay.
Let me just jump in for a second.
Yeah, clarify that for me, please.
Yeah, not so much the Osbrook Point, but just to clarify the Elihu Island. So Elihu Island, whether you guys know it or not, is basically a family-owned island. In that family, there are right now, I think there's 8 mooring holders in there. They probably going back about 5 years ago now. It's kind of been a changing of the guard. It's gone from the elder family to the younger family members. And we had one family member step forward and say, hey, if it makes it easier for you, I'll organize all of these clowns over here, people, excuse me. I'll organize all of these people over here. And that way we can just settle up with you with one check and make life easier on your end, because some of them were the people that we were charging, chasing late in the season, and it has worked out very nice. They're kind of a self-policing little group that gets all of their stuff together. One guy is the point of contact, and it has made it easy. So it was really easy when it was paper. When it went to online mooring, that's where Melanie had to go in and do in a way, they're almost treated like a commercial entity as far as the grouping for the billing, but they are still individuals just handled by one point person. So just to make sure there's no confusion there.
Well, and the check is from the trust,
Yeah.
Elihu
And-
Island Trust.
Yep. So they all, how they pay it amongst themselves, I don't get involved, but we get a check for the right amount, and we get registrations and verification of mooring, of all the moorings is all on the up and up. So it's all good.
Okay. As of today, I sent out 200 emails to all the individuals, it's the complete wait list, and to confirm their contact information. Then I've gone back in, I still have a bunch of emails to do, but the first group of 50, anyone who hadn't, I sent those out on the first batch, April 17th. And then on May 4th, I sent another batch out. And today, I called about 15 different people to find out, why they hadn't responded to me. And most of them hadn't given the correct email in our system. So I updated that, so they're going to get the correct billing when we get to that in September. Let's see. Cleaned up the waitlist duplicates. There were a bunch of people on the wait list who actually weren't familiar with the system and went in and put in new waitlist applications instead of renewing. So all those people I called and walked through the system with them while I had them on the phone to get it all corrected. And then I went in and deleted all their duplicate wait lists, so that corrected the wait list number. Right now, so the wait list went from 244 when I started this process. And as of today, we're down to 158. And now we are starting the wait list on May 2012. So really making a good dent in the wait list to get it a bit more manageable. And it's going to go lower once this next batch of 50 to 75 people respond to my email, or I have to call them back to find out. doing this to be proactive for August when we, Eric and I, with everyone's approval, come up with a quick template to send out a letter to everyone on the wait list via email. And anyone I speak to on the phone, I've confirmed that with them, that the new fee system had no problems with anybody. Most people have said to me, that's really great. That'll get the wait list down and I'll have a quicker chance of getting a mooring. So that got a lot of positive from that. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, John.
What does that translate to, Melanie? I mean, just approximately, I mean,
Mhm.
in the past you hear, well, it's 20 years to get a mooring. What does this translate to just in a sense of things, given that we're opening up new moorings, we're removing people from the wait list that don't want to be on it anymore and that sort of thing. So it's not quite as imposing. But any sense of that? Because that's a public question that, you know, people ask me all the time.
Yes.
And it's not a great answer because it's sort of discouraging, right?
Yes. Well, you have a better answer for them now. We're looking at 8 to 10 years right now, but that's before this batch of 100 people that I've got to go through to scrub the list even further. And so I'm anticipating that we're going to be able to say 6 years is my hope, 6, maybe 8. Yeah, Eric's nodding 8. I'm being optimistic. So that's a big difference from 12 to 15 years. We pretty much cut it in half almost.
Well, that's terrific. I think that's great progress.
Yes, I waited 12 years to get a mooring. So the people currently on the wait list have a lot less time than previously. And I'm finding a number of people I'm not interested because they've waited too long.
I have a question about that.
I'm sorry, Charles.
I just have a question when you're
Sure,
done.
go ahead.
I noticed on the dashboard there, whatever their algorithm is, or maybe it's just, you know, the oldest person on the wait list. The online moorings shows an estimate of the wait like of 14 years. That the public can't see that, can they? That's not a visible field to the public, is it?
The visible.
I
I'm
don't,
not sure about whether they see that 14 years, but that is going to go away because there are 4 people who have not, we gave them moorings this year and they haven't completed their applications. And
Okay.
that's why it's showing 14 years. It's
So their
going to go
application
down.
date is back to 14 years ago, but when they're off, okay. So
Yes.
maybe it's just, maybe they just go back to the oldest application date
Correct,
on the
they
wait
do.
list. All right, cool. Thanks.
I've actually asked them that question because I'm going through and it's like, why does it keep showing 14? And then there
Yeah,
was
good.
an issue with a number of people were approved, paid, but they kept sitting on the wait list. And there's a process you have to go through to check all these different boxes. And I did all that and got rid of those people. So, and the wait list is now posted at the town, on the town website. They can click on that and look at where they are on the wait list. And if I talk to anybody on the phone, I tell them now that we're scrubbing the list, what their new number is on the wait list and explain to them that currently it's not updated if you look online. And anyone can look at the wait list by going through to see where they are through online mooring. Any other questions? Okay. As Eric mentioned, I found a number of mooring holders. There weren't that many that were not billed for last year because they had incorrect emails in the system. So because of COVID, we waived that group. There weren't many, I want to say maybe 4 or 5. So they're all aware, and I explained to them they'll be getting a bill for, for next season, and how I went through and explained how to use online mooring and the renew button for them to complete that and to call me directly if they had any questions. Trying to take these kind of telephone calls off of Eric's plate. So he's just dealing with the current mooring holders. Also, let's see. I set up the new fees for the wait list with online mooring, so that we're all set to do the billing and automatic billing through the system in September when we send out the mass renewal for them. Also, let's see, inspection data from our vendors. Dunstock, they basically flatly refused to me to put any of their information into online mooring. They said they don't have the personnel to do that. So this year I took 2 years worth of inspection data and put it into online mooring. And that was a big data entry process. I also did the few that Green Haven Marine. He has a really nice system, and he sent me all the data. It was very easy to do, and he's fine with doing it next year. And I told him I would explain how to do it for him so he can go in. Ian said next year he still can't put the information in. And I would like to bring that up next year. We'll talk about that because I can't keep entering all their data every year into the system. Dodson's, the lady in the office, I forgot her name, Eric, Pam, is that Nancy, whatever her name is?
Judy.
Judy. She's very good, worked with her. She's put all their information in for all their mooring inspections, and they're up to date. So all our inspections are up to date so that when people go to renew, they are not seeing an error message that they don't, they have an overdue inspection. So that's all up to date.
I have a question about that too. I wonder, this might not be practical, but you think that's something we might be able to put the onus on the mooring holders and say, you're responsible. Maybe it's not possible to give them access to update that information, but if
well, Eric and I
I'd prefer not to.
Yes.
I'd prefer not to give that update
just stay
to
away
the
from
mooring holder.
Yes.
Just for we would prefer that come from the service provider or us to verify that it's actually been done.
Yeah, I just thought maybe there'd be a way logistically to have, just like you would have we upload the registrations and we upload all that other stuff. You would have the mooring holder put in their data, and then it might be a simpler process. And then you could just have Ian verify, can you just check that this is what you inspected? Maybe they'd be willing to do that. I was just a thought.
No, that might be something to think about. Would be splitting the labor, put the onus on the mooring holder to input the data,
right?
And then just asking Cassandra a couple of times a year for an updated list of what they've done, and then just run through and verify the system. It would involve some kind of check though, so that the data wasn't good until it was verified by us.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that puts on online to try and write that algorithm.
Yeah.
From what I found is folks, they can put in a date. They can't do anything else, but they can put in a date of when they're filling out their renewal. And I found a number of them have done that, and they didn't get inspections. They just, they wanted to make it look good, so everything was set. And most of them were Ian's, And he said, I didn't inspect their mooring yet. So not quite ready. I don't think that we should do that yet. I think we should give it another year, so that we're really on top of everything in online moorings before we start doling out other people to start putting in information. But I'm looking to spend time with Cassandra next year to train her more on that. Have to have a conversation with Ian to get him more on board with that.
I have a quick comment on that. Why are we bending to Ian Hetherington's or Don's doc
I don't know.
inability or I'd say unwillingness, because they can perfectly well do it. They have the
Well,
they have the
how are you
people
going to
there.
require that though, Bruce? How are you going to mandate that? If
Well,
he
why are we
says
bending
no?
to? Why are we bending to him? The other guys do it.
So Bruce,
I know.
what do you
I
propose?
don't get it.
How are you
I
going to
didn't feel
mandate
I was
that?
in a position to argue with him about it. I think that's something that has to be a mandate that the commission determines. And because Eric and I kind of talked about it, we're not that familiar, we're getting our selves comfortable with online. And I think that's something that we should talk about next year, in the beginning of the year when it's not so busy, with the season right now, and talk about that more, because I don't think we should be bending. Ian
this is-
should,
I
if he
can tell you
wants the
it's
business, he should be putting this in.
He's
The other vendors-
he's a provider.
It's
Yeah.
a long
It's part of his
issue, though.
It's part of his business. I don't
That's
understand.
going to be a tough sell.
And to have Melanie do it, I think that was a bad precedent, first of all, but
Yeah, I agree. I
done
mean,
it.
that we already knew that data entry is a big deal, regardless of I heard Eric tell you guys this over and over when we talked about migrating. You're still going to have the key issue of getting all the data in there, right?
Mhm.
And I can tell you this is a longstanding problem with Ian, going back to when it was Ed's database that I adopted and try and make it a little bit more, publicly accessible. He just flat out refused to cooperate in terms of like putting his data into our format, literally going back to like Ed's database, right?
Can I ask this question? What does it involve? I'm the mooring servicer. I go out on such and such a date and I check it and everything looks good. What do I have to enter? Do I have to enter a date and say
Yes.
done?
Yep.
Or do I have to enter a number of things? Do I have to enter lists of things that that exist? No. So it's a date and done.
Yeah.
I don't
all
get
the
it.
gears, look, all the gears in there, how much chain, what size chain, if he changed a shackle, that's all that stuff. What has always been in the database and
Yes.
is in the new database. So, once you're asking the provider to do that, you're asking them to maintain all that detail as well.
How many,
Yes.
Melanie, how many does Ian do in a season?
Hold on. Let's see. I don't actually, my brain's fried from data entry. So hold on a second here. I can tell you, let's see. He gave me 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages of 20. So he's got like 140 that he's responsible for.
Okay.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Every 3 years, he's got to do it?
Those are 3 years. So he's
Yeah, but he does inspections, every month.
Right.
And so he gives me the spreadsheet. There we go. So he gives me that list of all the people that he, in the red check marks, are the ones that he did this year. And I've got 7 pages of them. He would not give me the mooring tackle data. he would only give me the day he inspected them. Greenhaven and Dodson's all go in and they've got all the chain information and the mooring ball, the type of a pyramid versus mushroom, that's all in there already.
How much?
So they don't have to update that every year. They don't have to,
No,
every inspection, they don't have to add all that stuff
no, correct.
unless they make a major change. So
Right.
I'm just not getting why he won't do this.
Just because,
In answer to the number question, I just happen to have a list sitting here that I grabbed. It actually says fall of 2018 inspections. And only because the first number on the list was 2017, I did a quick scan through the list. I may have missed a few here and there, but in 2017, he lists 64 moorings that he inspected.
Okay, and what are you Eric, what are you expecting him, what information are you expecting him or any other inspector to give you each time they do an inspection? All the stuff that Charles might be talking about, all the change, or just the date and it's okay, or date and this needs to be fixed?
At a very, so right now you're asking an open-ended question because we haven't asked people to give us this kind of information in the past. At a bare minimum, right now, we need to know the date of the inspection. It would be advantageous if we had gear specifications in there, especially mooring type and size. That makes it a lot easier when you're reassigning a mooring. If you can go in, it's just one more data point to be able to go in and look at and say, okay, well, here's the guy that used to be here. Here's the boat I want to put on it. That would be a pretty easy one for one to be able to sell to the other. Or, well, there's the boat I want to put in it. That gear is not big enough. That gear is going to have to come out and the new guy is going to have to buy new gear. That would be the ultimate end goal. But this is new. Asking them to update that data in our system. So we haven't defined yet what we want done, how we want it done is the bottom line.
No, but you're saying from your standpoint, it would be helpful to you to do your job, to have the rough gear specs, like probably how big the mooring is and a few of those obvious things to answer the question you're talking about. And then the type and so forth, 3 or 4 pieces of information. And I assume their judgment as to whether the mooring is serviceable or unserviceable. I think they've been doing that for you anyway, haven't they?
Well, if the inspection is complete,
Right.
the mooring is good.
Okay. So you know that because it's complete.
Yeah, they're not going to sign off on completing a mooring inspection if, they're not going to put it back in the water with a junky shackle on it.
So it does not sound to me like we're talking about entering a lot of data.
I agree.
Where we are now. I mean, you could make it endless, I know, but in terms of what's really actionable, we're talking about 3 or 4 pieces of information.
well, with
Never
Ian's information right now, it's all up to date in the system. It shows that he is handling this particular, for instance, 9Q, he does ours. So in there, I put our specific tackle information and the type of pyramid mooring, et cetera. And he gave me on his list the date that he installed our new mooring, which was last year. So I went in and did the data entry of putting every single person from his list is assigned to him, to their particular mooring, and the date that he inspected it. It has no tackle information or type of mooring. He didn't give it to me. I asked for it twice. He didn't give it to me. He just gave me dates. So I entered that in. If we're requiring, Don Stock does it, Dodson's does it in detail. She spent time and did a very nice job with that. It's not we don't have a check and balance with Don's Dock to basically see what type of moorings, even though he's told me that he's switching over, he's no longer putting in mushrooms. He's doing, when he takes them out now, he's doing pyramids.
Can I interrupt? The reason I brought this, the reason I mentioned that I brought this up, this is an extremely important point. And those of us who were here and had boats in this harbor in 1985 with Gloria, when we had 50 plus boats stacked up like dominoes on the Wampausick shore and the railroad. My boat was out there. My boat survived. But this is a really important point. And we put together this commission, and when we put together regulations, we have in the ordinance and in the regulations, we have specifics about the type of mooring and what it should be. I think that leaving it to chance that and having somebody refuse to give information about this is irresponsible on our part. If I think we need to somehow force this issue. Dodson's does it, Cardinal Cove does it, Greenhaven does it. I don't get the problem here. And it's not, like Sherm said, it doesn't seem like a lot of information that has to be entered. Maybe you could do it over a period of a year, and you take, but it has to be taken care of. This harbor, we could end up with another disaster with boats all over the place, dragging into each other. I think we really need to know this. I think we need to push this issue.
I agree with Bruce. I think this is basic information. The fact that the other providers of this service do it, they get paid good money to do it by the owners of those mooring facilities for their boats. It's basic, and the commissions. I think it's our responsibility to have this information for our harbor master, whoever we think is the right person, is to look at it from time to time and make sure we're as comfortable with it as apparently either the owner of the mooring or, in this case, Don's Dock is, but based on what? These are standard reports, and once it's done, like we're saying, once the data is in the system, it's not that big a deal to maintain it. So I think it's something we should consider doing something about.
I wanted to also say, Bruce, you had mentioned why, I shouldn't have taken this on and done this. I did it because the online system was giving people error messages and not letting them pay because the inspection data wasn't in, and they were getting required, and they're calling up and saying, I got it. It was inspected, so-and-so inspected it on such and such a date. So
yeah, I get that.
I
Thank you.
myself so that we can get online moorings moving along and up to date.
Yeah.
But I totally agree that, and I tried to, talk to Ian about this, but it's not really my place as a commissioner. It's the commission who I feel has to initiate this and make Ian do this.
You're muted, Jay. Or at least we can't hear you. You don't
There we go.
Great.
We're not going to resolve this tonight. Let's move on. Okay.
Yes.
We'll put this on a future agenda, and we'll figure out and everybody think about how we can move this forward. I agree. We should get that data into the database. How we go by doing that, how we make dice with Ian to make that happen, so everybody's happy. That's what we got to figure out.
Okay. I'm all set with what I've been doing.
Okay. All right. So
so let me just jump in real quick. I mean, you heard how long it took Melanie just to give the report of what she's done. She's got hours upon hours of work to get this system to the best it can be. And I think we all owe her a huge thank you. I know I thank her every time I talk to her for taking the load off my back. So make sure that something
Thank you,
gets in-
Melanie.
It is.
something gets in the minutes about a thank you to Melanie.
I
Send in
second
the
that.
minutes for yourself,
Absolutely.
Melanie.
Okay.
Thank you, Melanie.
I'll type that in for
Put an attaboy
myself.
for yourself in the minutes, Melanie.
Make it an action item.
Thank you, Jesse. I'm doing it for us.
Oh, we really appreciate it. Thank you
And-
very much.
Because I want online system to work and make our lives easier and make us show as a great harbor. So that's why I'm doing it for us.
Okay.
Are we happy with online moorings? Has it really resolved anything for us? Just real quickly.
Yes,
Is it really a good system to continue with, or do we have more headaches than we can deal with?
not anymore, we don't.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's the key. Not anymore, and not anymore because of all the work that's been put into it. It was not the turnkey system that I thought we were being sold, but I think it's going to work out good. I can't wait till we try and use the mapping function.
All right, good. We can move on.
Okay. Next, I put an item on the agenda for commission vacancies. So we have a commission vacancy for a town position. The way these work, there was some questions via email and all. The way these work is these positions are filled by the Board of Selectmen, and they advertise it on the town website for town positions. I'm not sure what the borough does for the borough positions are filled by the borough. The borough warden and burgesses, I guess they vote on it. So they have their own process for filling them. So we really, what we can do, if you know somebody who would like to do this, have them put. There's a quick paper form. You just write it out by hand and scan it and send it into the Board of Selectmen, and they'll consider it. Jay Douglas sent one in. I had to talk to Jay, and we talked about it. I had a nice talk with him about it. And the problem with any of our providers being on the commission is we would not be able to do business with that provider then. And we both agreed that we wanted to do business with him, and he wanted to do business with us. So he withdrew his application for commission. I have another one. I spoke with somebody else who was interested, and they put in a application. And if anybody knows of any more has anybody talked to anybody else who's interested, who would be willing to put in for a town position? I can have the Board of Selectmen keep it open a little longer, or we can have them go forward with the one we have.
So the question that I raised is, we don't get a chance to review these people before they go before the town or the borough?
The Board of Stacy, the secretary, the Board of Selectmen secretary, has sent me the applications and asked me to reach out to that person, to talk to them about the commission, make sure they understand what's going on, and then I can give feedback back to the Board of Selectmen regarding the selection.
I mean, I don't know roughly how many commissions there are in this town, but I would say there's probably 50 or so. And of that, there's probably 10 members per. So there's like, several hundred volunteers for these commissions. So how does the town know that we have one vacancy? How did they know that?
Because Bruce let them know that he was not renewing his appointment.
Okay.
And they sent him a nice thank you and commended him for his service.
So they're not monitoring all these commissions to make sure they're filled. It's up to us or our commissioners to alert them that there's a vacancy.
Right, and it's up to you individual commissioners to let the let the town, for I did let the Board of Selectmen know that I wanted to be renewed in the position this year.
Right, okay.
That brings me up to my other point I wanted to make here is the borough dates, or the renewal dates for you guys seem to have gotten confused. I'm not sure. I was wondering if you guys can sort that out so that you don't all expire in the same year.
Well, the error occurred in the newsletter. I sent you a summary of what all happened.
Right.
So the newsletter had an error in it a couple of years ago. So I think we need to make a correction in the next newsletter, or at least to the commissioners, so that if you go back to, I don't know, 2019, I think that's the last time it was correct. So that's the correct tenures that we should be using.
Okay. So can we get that? So Jeff was going by what the newsletter said. Is that what was happening with your guys' renewals?
No, we knew when we were supposed to be renewed. At least
Okay.
I did. I think Sherm did. I think Ed might be an error. I'm not sure though.
Okay. Because yeah, we don't want to be in a situation where somebody's serving without being valid because they didn't get renewed.
And again, we don't want to have everybody renewed at the same time. So we need to sort that out. You're right.
Yeah, we've all been renewed, haven't we, Jess?
No, the meeting hasn't occurred. It won't be until the 17th of May,
Oh,
where
17th.
Sherman and I are on the agenda.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have anybody else for the town position?
Jay, for a discussion point, I don't agree that Jay Douglas should not be viable for the commission because of his business entity. If it was ever questioned, so we are pretty fair and equitable about the way we distribute our service work. And if it was ever questioned that Jay started doing buoy work for us and then ended up on the commission, we've got a clear email chain showing that we were in discussions with him about picking up some of this work well before we even knew that there would be an opening on the commission.
Eric, if you go back, and I read these documents, the conflict of interest policy and the ethics policy of the town of Stonington, and the item number 2 in the ethics policy is very clear that commissions cannot do business with members of the commission. So even the case with Bruce, and even with an employee of the so reading that, technically we couldn't buy anything from Defender when Bruce was on the commission.
I didn't know that. I did not know that existed. So I will
so yeah, you
stand corrected.
might want to take a look at that, and it would definitely be be contrary to that policy.
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Because you got to think about it for like planning and zoning and other commissions. There can be you could have huge conflicts of interest there.
Gotcha.
For that reason, I didn't reach out to Will Mackay for the same reason. Interest in joining because he has the he's got the shellfish farm. So I didn't reach out to him for interest as a result.
Melanie, that I don't think that would be a conflict. I mean, if we have to make a decision relative to his operation, then he could be recused from that. But as long as we're not doing business, we're not paying him to do something. It's a question of money.
Okay.
Because people could be recused. You know, you could
Right.
have
I do that all the time.
you could have a Caleb has to because there's a piece of business related to Ness.
Right.
Or a member could have a dock permit, you know, in front of the commission.
Okay. All right.
So that you could ask him to put in for it.
Okay.
if he's interested. I'm not sure he'd.
Okay, I don't know if he's interested
No.
either. I know he's expanding his business, so he's probably going to be really busy, but I
He
can
did,
check.
Mel, he did ask me about it one time a while
Oh.
ago, so I will also reach out to him. He's a
I'll
good
leave it with you because I don't see him as much. He's only 3 houses down from me, but I don't see him that much because he's out quite early in the morning.
No, I'd
Okay,
be happy to mention it to him.
Okay, good. I'll leave it with you, Caleb.
so that's all I want to do with the commission vacancies, and yeah, to have any additional people put in for the position if they want. And we can, then I'll work on it with the Board of Selectmen.
I wanted
Newsletter.
to- Oh, I'm sorry. I
Well,
wanted to just say, when my renewal, Stacy contacted me and asked me of my interest to renew. Because I guess I filled another person's slot, so I was only a partial. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, okay.
She reached out to me. I
Okay.
didn't have to contact her.
Yeah, she's on top of things pretty.
Yeah, she is. She's
Stacy's,
very on top.
So I think they're tracking it pretty good there. And like you said, Jesse, I mean, this whole town runs on all these volunteers, so it's quite amazing. So the newsletter update. What can we say quickly there, Mel?
Quickly ordered, in the process of printing. Hope to pick them up later this week, early next week. They've got a lot of orders, so they're kind of behind. And my plan was they're mailing them all out for us.
Excellent.
Yes. So I will pick up all the ones that we're going to place in vendors, and those gentlemen on the commission can stop by my house and pick up the ones to distribute around town. And I'll send you out an email when I have them at the house, and I'm
Great.
right off of Route 1. I'll give you directions. It's easy, and excuse me, you can pick them up to distribute around town.
Okay, great. So the next 2 items are yours, Bruce. Is there anything to add to regarding the buoys?
Nope, they were ordered the day after our last meeting, and I think it was 4 to 6 week delivery. So they should be, well, not delivery,
So
to pick up. They should be ready pretty soon.
We have the permit for the Aton?
We do.
That
right,
one, we do.
Eric?
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes,
And we're not sure when we'll get the Sandy Point one. Okay.
correct.
All right. Okay. So the harbor management plan. So we approved the ordinance. Then the other part of what we used to call the plan, we broke into 2 documents. So the front piece, which is descriptive, we're going to be recreating that into be what is the plan. And I'm working with Ed to get our latest version to Kim. Kim Zaba is working with us on that. She is she worked on plans a lot, and she's moving out of that role, but they have her continuing to do ours. So which I think that might be good for us because she's very familiar with our area.
She's a town resident.
Yes. I'm not sure. She moved. She was living near the borough, and she moved. I don't know if she moved over to Mystic, something like that. So, but she's not far. If she is nearby, so she's very familiar with it. So when we talk about all the things in there and all, she's a very good reviewer of it for us. So Ed and I'll be working on that, and brings us to new business. I have one piece of new business. I forwarded oh, did you want to add something to that, Ed?
Yeah, Jay, I just want to make sure that you got everything that I sent to you.
Yes, I got the emails you sent today. Yep.
Okay, I went back and I looked, and the only comment that I could find that she had made was changing transient mooring to transient anchor. That was the only comment I could come up with. But
Okay.
there might be more.
Well, she gave us a whole bunch of feedback that we incorporated.
Yeah, I think we got most of
back
it.
during when we were reviewing it, and then
Right.
we kind of dropped this part and worked on just the ordinance.
Right. Now,
for you.
the other question is, are are these going to go back together or are they going to remain separate?
I think they're going to be separate forever.
Okay, because we reference the shellfish appendix in the plan, but it's actually in, I think it's currently in the ordinance appendix. I don't know where where the shellfish is supposed to end up.
Okay, well, we'll have to work on that with her and see what,
Okay,
they have I think they kind of have a template of what they like the plans to look like now. So we may
Yeah.
have some quite a bit of things to reshuffle around.
okay, so how are we going to proceed from here?
I'm going to send her our latest, and we're going to
Okay,
we'll start working back and forth with her.
sounds good. All right.
Okay, on to the new business. So I forwarded everybody an email I just received this evening on regarding our from the first selectman. Anybody regarding in-person meetings? Right now, this is our last. This is our last online meeting, unless the governor extends our ability to do virtual and hybrid meetings, because that's being done under the governor's executive order, which expires on May 20th. Now that may be extended, and then we would be able to keep doing it this way. Otherwise, we'll have to meet back at the police department, which we have. We still have the meeting room reserved every second Monday every month.
We don't get an option.
I noticed there was in reading through, there is an option, which is that if we're unable to sit 6 feet apart, we, I guess, could do like a partial online meeting. I'm not sure. I know that there was something about 6 feet in there. And
I think you need to wear a mask if you can't be 6 feet apart.
Yeah, that's what it says. If you cannot have 6 feet of space, however, please ensure both members and those participating in person wear a mask.
Well, it's a big room.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're okay, unless you have one of those days where all the students come.
Yeah, that's true. How are they
Then
going to do that?
Yeah, I don't think students have been coming to meetings, so
Right.
they haven't called in anyway. So I'm not sure. We would have to limit how many could come in, I guess, in some
Well,
fashion.
they won't be coming in over the summer.
I don't think
No.
they'll be coming in. I mean, first of all, our next meeting's probably going to be, close to the end of the school. So that's
No,
not
I
gonna
don't.
be-
I don't think so.
Yeah, today would have been the big push with
Yep.
50 students there.
I think the civics class isn't requiring them to go to meetings because of what's going on.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if they. Yeah.
If I think most everybody has preferred the online meetings.
Yes.
That's correct?
Yeah, they've
It's
been
so
good.
easy, and it doesn't take time out of our personal time driving back, all of that.
Right. So I was hoping this could become a permanent change, but that would probably require a change of the statutes on how meetings are done and all for the Freedom of Information Act type stuff. So
Oh, well,
we will see. Maybe perhaps the executive order will be extended.
fingers crossed.
So stay tuned to that, and I'll let you know when I will write back to her and say that we would prefer to keep meeting online if possible. If anybody asks, or the town's opinion, I don't know what the Board of Selectmen, they have been meeting in person, but for us it is very convenient to do it this way. So
Yes, it is. I won't cancel the Zoom account.
no, don't cancel that yet. No.
All right,
Nope.
before we move into the executive section regarding new business, I think that we really give a shout out to the Stonington Harbor Yacht Club for the flare demonstration that also included a rescue swimmer demonstration with a Coast Guard helicopter where they dropped a dummy in the water and they retrieved it right off the point. It was unbelievably awesome.
It was spectacular. Yeah.
4 of us were there, but the harbor management, I'm sorry, the yacht club did an excellent job. And I think we really owe them a big thank you for doing that. It was just awesome.
Thank you, Jesse. I'll transfer that information and that compliment to the yacht club. I think they'll appreciate it.
Good. I think it needs to be in our records that they, we really
Put it in
appreciate
the
what they
minutes.
did for the community. And that's a really good example of them reaching out to the boating community and offering something truly useful for everybody.
Any pictures taken of it that can be saved for next year's newsletter?
Yes, I've got a bunch of pictures. I think, you know, I don't want to beat this to death. I think I was a little disappointed that it didn't show up in the day, but in reality, had this been advertised, it would have been flooded with people down at the point. So it really worked out well that there's only about, I don't know, 40, 50 people at the point, of which most of them were people participating in this. But the helicopter rescue swimmer thing was just over the top awesome.
Truth be told on that, that wasn't advertised, especially because it wasn't until we didn't want to make any announcement about it in case they weren't able to come because they had a real live rescue to do.
No, I understand.
It wasn't until we were down there and we saw the helicopter on the horizon coming over Watch Hill that we realized what was going on and the word got out. And we have a couple of Coast Guard captains in the club who were explaining exactly what's going on. So it was quite interesting.
No, Matt Gimbel's retired Coast Guard captain. He knew all about that and really took the reins to explain to everybody what was going on. But it was just, you don't get to see something like that up close, like ever, unless they're coming to get you.
That's great.
I have a quick point of information and a question also. Just FYI, I put up the dinghy dock signs today with Chris Arricchetti, a member of the yacht club, helped me get them up over there. And so they're up and they're in good shape, at least for this season they are. And so hopefully they'll be effective. The second is a question. It relates, I've heard that Dodson's is possibly not planning to not only do transient moorings this year, but they're really looking to get out of the business. And Eric, you might have information about that or not, I don't know, but I was curious about it because it seems that it's such an important service to the community of Stonington that is provided when in normal times, understanding COVID presented an unusual time. But if they were not doing that, it's almost like closing down the viaduct into the borough from vehicular traffic in a marine sort of way. It's really important. Last year when that happened, our dock that we do lease out the west facing dock to transient boaters. So that did very well because a lot of people come here, but there was no place else to go. And given the preference we give to Dodson's in terms of the use of moorings all throughout the harbor, it seems like there must be some obligation by them to provide services and fuel, which they also didn't do last year. And I don't know if they're doing it this year or not, but it's. So
they would prefer to rent them all? Is that what?
I don't know, presumably, I mean, they have a lot of moorings out there, but the transient side of it, this is such a popular and attractive port of call. It gets the word out to people all, the maritime community has for years and years, and it's how people become familiar with it and actually move here. I'm an example of that myself, having been here as a boater first. But anyway, I think it's something that we should be aware of. I don't know if there's a requirement for them to do that, to provide that service or not, but we certainly give them a huge benefit by allowing them to use all those moorings.
It's, I think it's featured in our plan, our management plan. I'll have to go back and look at that, but Eric, do we, I don't think we have any, I mean, operating transient moorings from the commercial moorings is one of the uses, but I don't think we require that to be done.
No, we don't. We don't.
No.
This is the first I've heard of them not offering any transient transportation this year. I knew that their annual fee was going up again.
No, he's
Um,
saying they aren't going to offer any transient moorings. Period.
Right.
Uh,
That,
that
That's what
I
I-
didn't hear either. So
well,
I
like
thought
last year, they didn't last
Yeah.
year either, right?
they didn't last year. I thought
That
I
was
was
a COVID.
told
That was a
early
COVID
this
thing.
year, very early, like February timeframe, maybe even January. I thought I was told that they were going back to transient moorings, but let me follow up and go have a conversation.
I was told by one of the mooring holders, confirmed for me, that he has, out by the breakwater, he has regularly paid for the same program Bruce McKinnon had mentioned about, they pay to have access to the launch service, to your personal mooring. They are charging him out by the breakwater because they told him it's too expensive for them to constantly drive the launch boats out there. And they're charging $880 for the breakwater area, anything past the transient anchorage. And he said he was told, this is hearsay, that for instance, like where Bruce McKinnon's mooring, that is 550. But they're trying to discourage folks going out. And I think they've got 4 or 5 people who are who pay this fee out by the breakwater.
That's just the launch service. This
That's-
was
yeah.
last year. They just changed the pricing to reflect the.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, they'd still do that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure they will also.
right. I'm just sharing information.
But I don't know, but what Joe's talking about on renting moorings, I had not heard that.
I hadn't either, and I'm at Dodson's almost on a daily basis. So I'll follow up on it too, Ark. I'll probably be there tomorrow. I'll ask.
You going to
Yeah,
talk
sounds
to
good.
Mark or to Bob?
I can talk to either one.
Yeah.
Bob hasn't been there that much.
Yeah,
but-
Bob
Okay.
hasn't been around a lot. I was going to talk to Mark next week.
Yeah.
Probably be making the rounds on Monday. So
Okay,
Great, thank you, guys.
that'd be good to know. All right.
Jay, I realize it's getting late, but I do have one piece of new business that I think it's important to at least get out on the table. People can think about it or however you want to handle this. I'll skip all the backstory in conserving time. We had a mooring applicant come up on the list for a mooring, a new mooring this year. They upgraded from the smaller boat that they had on the list initially to a very large catamaran that they would like to put in the harbor now. And lots of discussion back and forth on how we were going to handle this big boat. And at no time during the conversation did it come out. It was later on that it was found that not only do they intend to have this in the mooring as their own boat, but they have a website established and they're trying to charter this vessel. So basically run a charter operation out of Stonington. I don't, I couldn't remember exactly what the words were for commercial entity. But we gotta put a little thought into, I don't know of anybody else that charters their boat out of Stonington. I'm not saying that there isn't somebody, it's just not somebody that's doing it on a heavy marketing scheme like these people are. So I'm putting it out to the commission. Is that something that is that something that we want to run with? Letting a quote unquote private mooring holder run a commercial charter business out of that mooring? Do we treat it as a private mooring? Do we treat it as a commercial entity? Trying to do two things at once and look up the definition of commercial in our current plan. Commercial mooring, a mooring that is rented or leased or available for rental or lease. So that's our definition of commercial mooring.
That wouldn't fit that.
That doesn't fit that situation, but is chartering something. I don't have an opinion either way, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not real pleased with the way this was presented to us, that this wasn't really brought out and brought to the forefront of the conversation. It was kind of held in the back. And it's going to take some, it's not part of the problem. I throw that out there for the commission to consider.
Right. Okay. Maybe we should, we can take that up on a, because there's a lot of quasi-commercial use people may have with their boats.
Eric, how soon do we need to make a decision on this?
Well, right now, they've been told that if we can work out the logistics of how we're gonna moor the vessel, because I'm leaning towards making them go with a fore and aft mooring setup so that it doesn't swing. We're talking about a 54-foot catamaran with a 35-foot beam, I think it is. So the logistics of where to put it and how to put it, we had that discussion, and they were going to go back and talk to some people that they knew about, what they thought would be a good mooring setup and how to work that. But basically we're on the, we told them, yeah, we can probably get you in the harbor this season. And then we found out that the boat was that much bigger. And now it's kind of back in their lap trying to come up with a mooring scheme for it. I gave them some ideas. They were going to look into it and get back to me.
Do we need to get involved in where the participants in this or patrons of this boat would be parking? I mean,
I don't think that would be our,
No?
I don't,
Okay.
I don't know. Then now that you bring
That's
that up,
outside of our
that's
outside of our jurisdiction, but
I think that's
technically-
outside
Yeah.
of what we would consider, but then again, that's.
Well, Eric,
Also, the
you always
person-
consider if somebody's going to put a mooring, say, Wickwoody Quack Cove, you always bring up the issue of access.
Exactly.
And so
Hey,
I think
hey
even
guys,
in-
it's getting late. Let's get on. Let's put this off to next week and finish up our executive session.
Well, this person's on the mooring list. We can't just keep putting this off, Ed.
Well, it's Eric keeps explaining this as they. It doesn't sound like it's a personal mooring to me. And I think we ought to put a stop to it.
I'm using the
Let's
term.
get the details and talk about it and hold off. We can put them off forever if this is not fitting our model of a personal mooring.
Ed, I'm using the term they to keep a name out of it.
Okay.
Also, they are planning and have posted on public websites that a family member is planning on living on the boat in the harbor.
Well, they can't do that. That's against our regulations.
I
That's
know.
clearly
So
against the
turn them down
regulation.
for that.
Oh, we can't turn them down. All we can do is tell them they can't live on it.
Well, whatever.
They've spent their time on the wait list, so I think,
I mean,
So-
the other thing I think we have to consider is the size of that thing. Somewhere we've got to put a restriction on how big a boat you can moor in the harbor. I mean, somebody comes in with an 85-foot boat. What are you going to do?
If we can't, so this is earlier this evening, I said we were going to get to the point where boats were going to sit at the top of the waiting list because we were out of room. I have had a conversation with these people saying that based on the characteristics, length, draft, beam characteristics of your vessel, you're not going to be sitting on one of our pre-agonized, pre-laid out mooring locations, and gave them basically two options on where I thought it would work and how I thought it would work. And they said, okay, well, we want to go talk to people that know more about mooring vessels than you do and more about mooring gear than you do, and we'll get back to you. So that's why it's in their hands right now to figure out, you know, whether or not what I'm asking is reasonable. My question to the commission is purely, if they are advertising this vessel as a commercial vessel for
Charter.
or charter, is the commission comfortable with that? Does it meet our plan? I'm reaching out to the commission. I could make a decision as the harbor master and say yay or nay, but I generally don't do that. I reach out to the commission when it comes to issues like this. I really don't care what time of night it is. We have these meetings. We don't have end times. I'm sorry that you have an executive session after this, but I have a commitment to give an answer to somebody that has come up on the wait list. I waited to new business to bring this out.
No, that's appropriate.
I totally
I think
agree
it
with
sets a
Eric on
dangerous
that.
precedent. I think it's not something that we'd really like to see happening in this harbor, and pretty soon it could propagate into a number of things that we're not interested in. But I think part of the problem is the length and beam of the vessel and how many mooring spaces it would actually take out of this harbor.
That's what I said. They're going off grid with
They're
a
going
special
off-grid.
setup. Off grid with a special setup, fore and aft moorings, so that their vessel will not swing like everything else does.
What do
Would
you
it be
mean?
in the harbor, or is it not in the harbor?
It's in the harbor.
What could be off grid though, Eric? Where's,
If we go, row 1 only has Mike, November, and Oscar. So if I went to where Papa and Quebec, the only reason we don't go to Papa is that when you put in mooring Papa and allow a vessel to swing as it would normally swing, it gets within the no-fly zone that we established from distance from the breakwater.
okay.
So I could put them in between where Papa and Quebec would be in row number 1 with a fore and aft mooring, making them face into the predominant southwest and keep them there. I could do the same thing at the end of row 3. At
Okay.
those two areas where I could go fore and aft, keep them from swinging so that we don't go into the no-fly zone on the breakwater.
Okay.
That's the reason they're off-grid locations. A regular mooring in that spot would swing.
Okay. Does that jeopardize other boats in that area? I don't want to continue this too long, but other boats in that area with a north, let's say a northwest gale. Now they're broadside with a 50-some foot boat with probably with a huge superstructure and windage. I can imagine.
Honestly, it's going to put them in more jeopardy than anybody else, because the northwest gale that they're broadside to, if they break free, they're going to be the ones on top of the breakwater
Very quickly.
Well, they're only gonna break free from one of their moorings, so
And then swing into the breakwater. Yeah. All right.
And I
Jim,
have
I'd like to say something, please.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
If I could have the floor. I think this is not something we're going to be able to resolve. If we really think we want to prohibit the chartering, I think it's a legal opinion. Otherwise, we just have to let them, go through the process. I suspect that there are several boats in the harbor that charter for fishing. I don't know of any, but you know, every harbor has a fisherman that takes people out for hire. And the other thing about the mooring, just a technical point, a 2-point moor isn't very good in a storm if the axis of the wind is 90 degrees to the mooring axis. Typically, you'd use a 3-point moor.
That's understood, and they would also be required to provide us with a storm plan.
Yeah.
Also, I just have concerns with this application because the applicants have not been truthful with us and they have not shared information. And I'm concerned that if we allow this into the harbor and they go out there, they're not going to use their 2 moorings. They're going to swing differently on 1 mooring than 2 catamarans. Our experience in other harbors with large catamarans, there's a lot of concerns. And I'm just afraid that if we make an exception for these folks, let them have a mooring in the harbor, they're going to have to be monitored because I don't feel that they're going to follow the rules.
So what's the consequences of us tabling this until next meeting?
I think, Eric would have to address that. I think, Melanie, I think it's the other way around. You're asking to make an exception of them. You're not treating them like you would anybody else. So.
Jay,
Right.
can I have the floor again?
Go ahead, Paul.
To address something you said, Melanie, I'm 90% sure that I know who you were talking about. And the part about being truthful, that's not true, because I've been dealing with these people for 2 years. And every time I talk to them, they're proposing a different boat for the mooring. And they happened to call me a few weeks ago. And that's the first I've heard about the catamaran. And I was kind of surprised because they did discuss the boat. They didn't discuss the plan to charter, but this was a new boat. So I don't think we should be saying anything about them not being honest, because their plans have been changing every time I talk to them over the past.
Paul, it's not a lack of honesty issue as far as I'm concerned. It's a omission of information.
Correct.
It was new information. Let's just leave it at that, because I've been talking to them all along.
The website is well established, Paul.
Yeah.
What website?
They have a website advertising that I found that they never shared with us. The commercial advertisement is on the boat itself as an advertisement. They didn't say anything to me when I spoke to them and offered them a mooring. They did not tell me anything about the commercial enterprise. They did not talk anything about living on the vessel.
Well, they haven't been talking about putting this boat on that mooring until very recently, because I've been talking to them all along, and they've been trying to get a boat registered. It's a dual ownership situation, and they've been trying to go through the DMV about the boat ownership. And the last discussions I had were a different boat. So maybe they have this enterprise for this catamaran, but that was not what they were planning to put on the mooring. I'm going to go back, say, 4 or 5 months ago.
That's
we shouldn't really be saying that they weren't honest.
That's Paul.
We're jumping to a few conclusions there. So
no, I'm not, Paul. I'm sorry you're picking at me about this, but I'm the one who had the most.
I'm just trying to defend somebody who is a friend of mine, and
listen,
I've been dealing with him for a couple of years. You know, he's not a close friend, but I've known him for years, and I just don't think we should be saying that someone's not honest when we could take a different opinion.
Well, I'm sorry you don't like my words, but I'm being truthful. That's how I felt when I talked to them, because they didn't give me correct information. I had to pull information out of them, and then I did research and found this information on the web and shared it with Eric so he could make his decision.
Okay, just trying to keep the commission out of some hot water from casting aspersions, that's all.
I don't think, somebody's use of their boat, all we do is require that they use the boat. We don't question how people use their boats. And
That's right.
I don't, that's not something we normally collect from people, what their intentions are for using their boat, if they're going to be fishing commercially, fishing, teaching sailing lessons, you know, people could be doing all kinds of things with their boats, and we don't really have it. It's really none of our business what people are doing with their boats.
I think the problem is the size of the vessel, length and width.
That's
And,
a different
the effect
issue.
it has on other boats in the harbor. I think that's really the basic issue.
And that, I think, Eric, they've addressed that. I don't think the commission can help you with that, Eric.
They haven't come back with an answer yet on.
Right, but I don't think the commission should weigh in on that issue. That's what I'm saying. The
Well,
size.
that's fine.
That's a harbor master safety issue, not a commission policy issue.
That's true statement. And my reason for bringing this up, I will restate it again, was not about the technicality of the mooring. It was about the advertised charter of the vessel, and if that was something the commission was comfortable with. So I am going to, you know, if the commission wants to table this and make it a line item for next month, then I have no problem in telling these people that, yeah, well, based on the charter portion of this, I'm waiting for the commission to weigh in.
I think
if we don't have a specific provision to use in that way, we could be opening ourselves up to legal issues by prohibiting them from doing something that we don't in our plan specifically prohibit anyone from doing. We may not like it, maybe it's not what we have in mind, but do we have the legal position to say you cannot do it? I don't know. I think that's a legal question, but I think we are exposing ourselves if we base our decision on that, on the size of the vessel and the dynamics of the vessel. That's a matter of, well, maybe you put them out on the east side of the point where they can swing to their heart's delight. But they're not going to like that. And I think the only thing otherwise is the interference they have with other boats. And effectively, they're asking not for one mooring, they're asking for several moorings because of the space they're taking up. The only good thing about a boat like that is probably their draft. They probably don't draw as much as some boats, and maybe that will allow, Eric, you to put them someplace else. I don't know. But those are some of the, I think those are some of the issues.
Sounds like they need to be off of Barn Island.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
If we're going to base a decision on the charter aspect, can we know at least what the website is so we can look for ourselves, especially if we're going to table this? I mean, I think we deserve an opportunity to look at and evaluate, I guess, what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I will forward 2 websites to all of you in an email. As a matter of fact, I'll do it right now. It's going to come through as a reply because it's the easiest way for me to get the whole group. It's going to be a reply to Jay's agenda email that went out, and it will have 2 websites for you guys to look at.
So, Eric, I said something just now, but maybe I should be more serious about it. Is there any reason why a boat could not be moored in that big cove that's off of Barn Island launch ramp area? I mean, it's part of our jurisdiction.
Shellfish Commission.
Very shallow over there.
Yeah, it's very shallow, and I have an agreement with the Shellfish Commission not to put any boats in there.
Okay.
Eric, you mentioned they're having trouble registering this boat because there are multiple owners or something. Did I pick that up? Is that correct?
I did not say that. Paul did.
I can confirm that. I talked to them. There are more than one owner, and the original application was in the daughter's name, not the father's.
So
we have,
Eric,
Father owns the vessel right now, and has a website looking for investors to further own the vessel.
Eric, didn't we run into this once before with multiple owners?
that's why we,
Bringing it up.
that's why we have a,
Affidavit.
affidavit. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
right.
Affidavit for majority ownership.
Okay,
Holder has to be the majority owner of the boat.
True statement.
Is that the case here, or we don't know?
We don't have that information.
But the daughter was on the waiting list,
Yes, she's the
Correct.
one who applied,
then
and
she needs to be the majority owner
Correct.
for a different vessel.
for
And
a
then-
different. It
Yeah.
sounds like they don't have, I don't know, they might not have a right to a mooring period.
That's why I asked questions, and I was told that her father owns the vessel.
Yeah, see, that's not right.
That's what I thought. That's why I brought it to Eric's attention.
I agree with Bruce. She needs to own it, even if they switch vessels. That's common with people that go 10 years on our wait list. They switch vessels, but they don't switch the owner of the vessel who applied for the mooring in the first place.
Yes. That's what started the conversation, because she told me that I was confirming information with her so I could give it to Eric to offer a location. And she informed me that she no longer, they no longer have that vessel, and told me what she was putting on. And then she put, the next day, put in a change of vessel form in online moorings.
Well, but this is in fact a legitimate commission issue.
Yes.
If we allow people to change owners from who applied for the mooring in the first place.
That's not,
Up and down through your family, through, I mean, this blows the whole thing up.
okay, that's not the issue here. If indeed we move forward with allowing this vessel to come into the harbor, it will have to have the affidavit of ownership. The name of the owner of the vessel will have to match the mooring holder.
Good.
Okay, that's not a question. I have no problem holding people to those written rules. That's not the question.
Yes, we have that in writing. So that's not a problem
Exactly.
to enforce.
And that has to be a majority ownership. So if they're looking to syndicate this thing, that would be an interesting thing to look into.
And they're not it's not one owner. They're looking for investment of ownership into the vessel. They have that advertised on the web.
I just sent the email to all of you with 2 websites. Like I said, it's a reply to Jay's.
Okay, so if this, we can put it on the agenda for our next meeting. If it is much more pressing, Eric, let me know. I'll call a special meeting for just this issue.
Okay.
If need be.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff.
Before May 20th, so we can do it online.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey,
That'd be
Eric,
pretty-
what you sent is requires Facebook access. Do you have another way to get access to this thing?
It should
I
have just
can-
come, it should have just come through as 2 email addresses in a straight up email. Or excuse me, 2 web addresses in a
Yeah.
straight up email that I sent to you. You should be able to cut and paste that right into your
Okay,
right into your browser.
Yes.
You should
Okay.
have HTTPS backslash
Oh, I got it.
magic
Yeah,
bus.
I got it, Eric, but it doesn't doesn't have a lot of information.
I'm not saying that it's a quick link. I'm just giving you
Yeah.
those to go to.
no,
It
I
doesn't
got it.
say anything about Stonington.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? All right, so I forget, do I have to do this with a motion to go to executive session? Or it's just time to go to executive session, I guess.
Yeah, motion would be appropriate, yeah.
I get a motion to go to executive session?
I'll make a motion. We go to executive session.
I'll
I
second.
second.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes, Charles, you
I'm just waving.
waving goodbye. Okay.
waving.
All right. Thank you, Charles and Eric. And
We'll see you May 19th or whatever.
we'll be in touch.
Good night.
Yeah.
All right.
Guys.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Night. I'm stopping the recording now that we're starting executive session.
Okay. I just wanted to follow up on our